I'm just doing the final setup for the FX502 review video coming up after this. This is the lower end version of the GL502VM, tested by Alan in the US. I've got a version of it here that has pretty much exactly the same, except this has got the previous Skylake generation CPU inside. We'll talk about this and compare it to the GL502VM in this review. Entry-level gaming, a couple of interesting corners have been cut, but I find that this isn't too bad. It scored 82% in our full review, and you'll get the details in the video coming up next. So the FX502VM, tested by Alan over in the US. I've got a German version here, which has got a slightly different GPU in, but we've got the GTX 1060, we've got 8 gigs of RAM, we've got the same upgrade capability. We have got an SSD. It's not a PCIe, but you can upgrade to PCIe, terabyte hard drive as well. There's no USB-C port with Thunderbolt, but apart from that, there's a fairly good setup here. Let's just start with the chassis. Chassis, okay, actually looks pretty good. 2.56 kilos isn't a bad weight for this. And in fact, I find the actual fit and finish to be pretty good for what could be termed as a value gaming laptop. Take a look around the keyboard there. I like the keyboard. The throw is pretty good. There's a backlight on it, and the mouse pad. Well, Alan had a problem with the mouse pad in the US. I had a problem in here in the German version. Slightly different problems between the two of us. For example, the right key, the right mouse button wasn't working for me. For Alan, he found it a little bit clicky. The fit of it is fairly good and it feels okay, but you want to watch out when you get that out of the box. If you buy it, just check it through. Make sure everything's working on the touchpad. So let's take a look at the ports on this side. We've got two USBs, two USB 3s that is, 3.1 Rev 1s, and an SD card reader, which is running at around 70 to 80 megabytes per second. So it's not a low speed version. I'm really going to call out anything that runs under 30 megabytes per second in 2017. So well done Asus, 70 to 80 is acceptable. It's not the 100, 150 to 200 megabytes per second we're seeing on some of the high-end devices, but that's fairly acceptable there on that SD card reader. And then on this side you can see full gigabit, there's a mini display port there, full HDMI, another USB 3 port as well. So in terms of ports, oh yeah, there's the power on there, and on the other side I forgot to mention the combined headset port, so you haven't got separate audio in and audio output. So for some gamers that might be doing a separate mic, you might want to think about having an external USB module for that. Staying with the audio though, the speakers on this are absolutely terrible. They sound really, really poor, especially compared to the awesome Predator 17X that I tested last week. Okay, that one's 3,000 euros and this one is coming in at $1,250, about the same in euros. But still, you'd think they'd put better speakers into a device like this. Over 1,000 euros and poor speakers, that doesn't add up. You can get the back off this fairly easily, and I'll show you a few pictures of the back off this. So you can upgrade. And remember the SSD that's in there, the SATA 3 version, which isn't a really, really high-end SATA 3 version. Read speeds were good. The write speeds on the sequential test weren't that good. But it does take a PCIe, so an NVMe SSD module if you want to take that upgrade path. 1 terabyte hard drive in there is pretty average in terms of performance, but that's good enough to store your games and all your media. Now the other corner that's been cut here on the FX502 is the VRAM with the GPU. We've got 3 gigs of VRAM with the GTX 1060 here, and not the 6 gigs that you find on the GL502. So with that and the screen, that's why you're saving $200 to $300 on this version compared to the other. Now, the screen is pretty poor. It's a TN panel, it's not IPS. The contrast is poor, the viewing angles are poor, the maximum brightness is poor, color range is pretty poor. The colors that are there are fairly accurate though. So I actually found this to be fairly reasonable for surfing the web, for doing office type of work in the short time I tested it with. Unlike some of the other devices which have TN panels, this does have at least a little range in there that is usable. So I think combined with the weight of this, only 2.5 kilo, it's possibly an interesting transportable office device. And then when you get it home, connect it up to a decent monitor, and you get some good gaming out of this. And you really will get some good gaming out of this, because compared to the GL502, there's not much difference in gaming performance. Have a look at those scores there. Now that will take you up to full HD with extreme, so the very highest settings in terms of graphics that you can get on most games, and you'll still get an excellent experience there. So it will even allow you to do some entry-level VR, some entry-level 4K with an external monitor, but it isn't a full VR-ready device, and it isn't a full 4K device, unlike that Predator 17X that we tested last week. Having said that, that was 3,000, this is 1,250. When you look at some of the test results we've got on the website, look how close this is to the GL502. In fact, there's a test here I'm looking at right now, the Firestrike graphics test. The FX502VM came in with a higher score than the GL502. It's not by much, we're talking about a couple of percent there, but it really is close. So you won't notice much difference in terms of performance between this and the GL502 when you're gaming. I'm not going to give you a whole series of CPU and GPU tests. Go to the full review and check out the big range of tests we've got there. You can get a deep dive and get some real fine-grained detail and comparison with other devices in this class. Heat and noise. The fans are on all the time on this one. And if you're gaming on it, it's going to get warm. 56.8, and I can actually still feel the heat on this from when I had it on a few minutes ago. 56.8 in this area here. Just spin that around. That's this area here. It's the same in most gaming laptops. Top right of the keyboard gets pretty hot. 56.8 is a little bit too much. With all gaming laptops, you're going to get some fan noise, and this one up to 52.3 dBA at 1 meter. A little bit higher than some of the other devices in the class, but they're all around the 50 dBA. So they're all audible and a little bit annoying if you're really using it at full power. There's just one more thing for me to talk about before we close up this video review. It's the battery life, 66 watt-hour battery inside. You shouldn't expect a massive amount of gaming battery life from this. 1 hour, a full load test. 4.5 hours Wi-Fi surfing isn't too bad, and you'll probably get 4 to 5 hours worth of H.264 1080p playback on the video there. Although having said that, that screen isn't really worth spending too much time watching video on. To sum up then, the cons. The TN panel, not very good. We've got the 3 gig of VRAM on the GTX 1060 as opposed to the 6 gigs that you'll find on the GL502. We had problems, both of us, problems with the click pad. Check yours if you buy this. Lid was a little bit wobbly, and no USB Type-C with Thunderbolt. That might affect some of you, but don't forget you've got the HDMI and the mini DisplayPort adapter on it as well. So 82% is a good score from us. It's not up at the high-end range, not in our top 10 of gaming devices. We'll leave that to devices like the Asus Predator 17X that we tested last week that got 86% and is now pretty firmly in the middle of our top 10. But this at $1,250 seems to be an interesting portable gaming device and workstation. And after I've done this video, I'm going to do a couple of video render tests just to see how quickly I can do some video rendering out on this and to see how much noise and how much throttling I get over sort of a 5-minute throttling test. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to thumbs up, don't forget to share, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.